Okay, quiet down, everybody. We'll start the public meeting to discuss the town manager search. Tom, why don't you go ahead and start off?
The other thing he reported, Don Garris reported to me, he has 12 or 13 applications already. A large majority of them from out of state.
Really?
Wisconsin, West Virginia. I think he only had like 2 main folks, but Tennessee, there was a few, okay. But, you know, we've only been out there for 2 weeks yet, so. And he had talked to somebody else, a few people over the telephone, who indicated they were going to submit applications, resumes, etc. But anyway, these are the questions he, as I said, he emailed down to me that we're running a meeting here, and there were people here to comment, not that John or us, but these are the issues he thinks they ought to comment upon. First, dealing with the most important issues and challenges the town will face over the next 5 years, and then of course the characteristics that we should be looking for in a town manager, and then essentially a catch-all on the comments. So he will be here for the next public meeting that we're going to have.
Then I guess we could just start off by asking the 2 folks and the board. First question. Right.
Sure. You want to start?
Okay. So those questions are, what do you feel are the important issues or challenges the town will be facing over the next 5 years? Sean, chime in.
My feeling is it could only be, almost be a 2-part question. Where do you see issues or possible problems in 5 years and in 10 years? Not just looking for immediate future, but looking out a little bit further.
Any comments about what you feel the 5 and the 10 years are? Issues that are facing? I mean, we're asking for input. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I just think that things are changing so much. It's good to have 5 years, but you also want to kind of keep an eye out for a little bit further than that. That's why I was kind of figuring 10 years.
Absolutely.
I would like to see, as far as the issues or challenges, one big thing is like the town hall, new town hall is desperately needed. And I think that should be a really important focus. And the improvements along one with the seasonal cottages, we can have somebody that's, driven as far as like, with, some type of vision for like development. Like, you hear about these other towns where they've created the infrastructure and then drew the businesses in. And I think that's something that Arundel needs to look at is, to get something with vision that could push the development along Route 1, whether it's recreational businesses that are drawn into Arundel, water slide, a new golf course, or things like that to go along with the seasonal cottages. I think something with a vision for that business district is very important to work with, developing Arundel. So I think, was it Brewer or Brunswick or something that, you saw in the news recently that they created infrastructure and they drew a lot of small businesses in and it really took the, because they used to be more like shoe shops and things like that, which those jobs are gone now, and they have to recreate themselves or redesign themselves. And I think Arundel is at that point where we kind of really need to, redo ourselves and kind of put out a new image.
John, you got anything to add?
Well, I think communications is going to be a big part of it, and I think we ought to have somebody who referring back to what Simone just said. You know, internet hookups, we got this 3-ring binder right now, we have no way of hooking into. And I think whoever is the next town manager ought to be somebody who's prepared to sit down with the likes of Great Works Internet or whoever else is involved with this kind of stuff and find out what we've got to do to get better internet speeds in town. Right now, the whole state, I think, is, you know, dead slow compared to the rest of the world. It's going to make it that much more difficult to attract new businesses if we don't have the right infrastructure. I think Simone has a very good point about get somebody who is interested in developing down Route 1. You know, the EDC has been working on an economic development plan, and I think Route 1 will be a big part of it. Need somebody, you know, as town manager who's going to be interested in pushing that type of thing and make sure that we, you know, get some either industry in here or tourist attractions or even if it was only old age facilities, something which will generate some taxable income for the town.
About board members, any board members got anything to add? Guess I'll run down the line.
Well, one thing I would love to see in town is some senior citizen housing. We have none whatsoever, and there is such a need for that. And that is something that I would like to see. And I think that, again, with what we're doing on Route 1, and Route 1 being kind of the center highway that goes right through town, we do need someone who not only is very familiar and knows how to work with TIFs, but someone who's economically driven, somebody who knows how to get things done in the economic community. But I'd love to see a senior citizen complex in town.
Love to see what, Lola?
A senior citizen complex,
Oh.
an elderly housing complex, well, over 55 housing.
After all this snow, I'll be ready to move in.
Yeah. Put your name first on the
Get in
list.
line, because you're gonna be behind me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just throw my piece at the, you know, going down the line here. You know, I think the economic boom is starting to turn, and, you know, the town, to me, the town needs to capitalize on it. We certainly have a bunch of subdivisions that are, you know, plenty of room for housing. You know, we've got his songs, we've got a couple others that there's, you know, and as that goes, I'd like to start seeing, you know, the turn towards the businesses, and we need to focus on that and try to get the right businesses in town. And we certainly, I think that's the big issues with this town, and I mean, this has been going for quite a while now, right? What do we do to relieve the tax burden of the citizens? And this is a big issue, and especially with the governor trying to do everything that he wants to do, it's going to be a heck of a lot more of a burden for us. So I think those are big issues. And personally, I don't think that we're alone. I think every town in the state is faced with those. But as it starts to turn, I think we need to find something that can capitalize on that stuff. So.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. The only thing that I would stress is hopefully we can find a fit that is very conscientious of the mill rate, because I think we've done a very good job to this point of growing ourselves at a rate where the mill rate isn't changing drastically here and there. I think Todd did a very good job of balancing the numbers to keep kind of an even flow at the end of the fiscal year. So I don't want to see someone come in here and see that we want the town to grow, we want businesses, we want housing, but I don't want Arundel to turn into a Sanford where the mill rate pushes it ahead of growth and it drives everybody out. I think it's key to keep what we have here, let it grow, but I think we need to be responsible in the growth. So like John said, I think we need somebody that's going to work with all the departments right down the line. Communication's going to be key.
Phil?
Well, I think the 55 and over housing is a good idea. We had a chance to have that a few years back, and somehow it got thrown out the window. I'd like to see that come back up front. We have right now, I think, a pretty good, really good highway program going on, and I'd like to see that continue and bring our roads and infrastructure right up to Class A as much as we can without disturbing the mill rate too much. And keep trying to bring in some commercial, industrial revenue, which is, I think, what we need a lot of. And I like the open door policy at town hall that we've had for the last few years. I'd really like to see that continue. And that's about it for right now.
Tom, anything to add?
Couple of things. One is we are gonna have, to satisfy Jason's concern, we're gonna have to have a magician on board, is what it comes down to. Between the school renovation projects, the town hall, and just the general increase in costs and expenses across the board, holding the mill rate is gonna be a real hard task. I mean, it's gonna have to find real creative ways to finance projects, to try to, Jason said, hold that rate as steady as we can. But it's, if the school renovation project's capacity, even at 58 million and change, it's gonna be a huge hit for us. And the other thing is, I don't know whether the manager can do this, but I think with the manager, I'm not still convinced, even though we had this study that we've got identified an image for this town. Whether it's the agri-tourism or whatever the Chesapeake came up with, I just don't know whether, I don't think the EDC bought into it
No, they didn't.
wholesale.
No.
I didn't buy into it either.
No.
And we're still left hanging out there, I think, with what is the image of this town? Because that's gonna necessarily attract different kinds of businesses that want to complement that image. And I think we need to get some help in that with the manager, I think, identifying, maybe from the outside, maybe it's a good thing to come in and identify what the image of the town is as he or she perceives it coming in, or what it should be, as they see it coming in, communicate that to the board, sell it to us so that we can then back whatever policies, projects, whatever, will be needed to basically support that image. Hopefully everything that comes with it.
I think the Chesapeake group report was far too heavy on the agricultural end of things, the agritourism. I think the feeling of the EDC is that the town probably ought to focus on three things. One is to take advantage of any tourist opportunities, which we have quite a bit of tourism down in Kennebunkport and Kennebunk to some extent. We're right next door, we ought to be able to capitalize on some of that. We do have a pretty good segment of the population that's employed in manufacturing. So, small manufacturing ought to be something that we ought to push. And the third major thing, I think, ought to be medical and residential facilities to take advantage of the aging population. And that can be anything from, senior housing to, residential homes where you need a little more care. And I think we also ought to try to take advantage of some of the hospital and doctor's offices that are being built around. We've never made any real effort to get any medical facilities located in town. Whereas we've got, doctor's offices right across the town line in Kennebunk, we've got it right across the town line in Bedford.
I think sewer is tying our hands.
I think
Lack
sewer,
of.
Right. I think, you know, once you jump into that medical designation, you absolutely need sewer.
I agree with you, Jason, and I think as far as infrastructure improvements go, sewer ought to be right up there, you know, toward the top of the list. And I think it's gonna be important not only for that type of facility, but also to try to attract any sort of manufacturing facility. I think it's gonna be important there, too, given the soils conditions that we have on Good Pine and Route 1.
If I can just kind of throw in a little something, kind of expand on Tom's kind of view. We could, to kind of go along with the agritourism, you know, that kind of encompasses a bunch of different things. But if we could kind of try and make a niche with that and with eco-friendly manufacturing, you know, that would help give us more of a kind of like a, you know, a down to earth, you know, of the ground type of kind of image. Whether it be natural soap or, you know, I mean, just something kind of along those lines. If we try and maybe reach out to some of those businesses and it's like, what will you look for? We could try and draw you in. What is it that you're looking for?
Jack, you got anything to add?
No, not to take it lightly, but I said to Simone out the door when I knew this was gonna happen tonight, I said, give me about another week and a half, and I'll give you something to think about.
Well, you know, there'll be another meeting, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's certainly nothing inappropriate or out of line with anything that you folks have requested and said. I think you're right on target-wise, you know, from my perspective, but I might be able to add something down the road a little bit as far as management components, which is more my strength, but you're certainly on the right track from my perspective.
So the second question that I wanted to ask the public is, what do you feel are the most important characteristics a new town manager should have? People, person, sense of humor, outgoing personality, and what education, background, and experience do you feel the new town manager should possess?
All of the above, right?
Well, do you want me to open it up?
Sure.
One of the situations that happened when I first came on board was our first one administrator was from Minnesota. And then we had some severe issues with the fact that he had absolutely no clue about Maine government as far as local town meeting. He was used to a council, you did your budget, you handed your budget to county government, county government billed it, and it was, you know, it was a constant thing about, well, we're gonna get the selectmen to do such and such, and we'd say, no, you can't, you need a town meeting vote for that. So I think, you know, you wanna make sure that this person is, if they're coming from out of state, or at least a little familiar with the selectmen town meeting form of government, because that was, you know, it was like kind of an issue that, you know, he wasn't used to the whole collection, tax lien procedure, any of that, and I think that was difficult things, as maybe partly I was new at it too, so I'm sure I would have had a lot more to say if I would have, you know, been there a few years and stuff, but it was a concern that, you know, you know, he always kind of wasn't comfortable with it, because he'd say, well, this is just so complicated, you know, because it was a lot more complicated than going to a council and getting a 5 or 7 man vote to take something to town meeting and get it approved by town meeting. It is a little bit different.
That's a very good point. John, you want to add anything?
Nope.
We can kind of go across the board here again, and we'll start on this side, or this way.
Yeah.
Sean? you know, important characteristics of a new town manager, and education, background, experience do you feel that you should possess?
I just feel that you need to get a person that realizes that, you know, he's gonna be the figurehead that a lot of people are gonna come in and wanna talk to. He's not gonna be just someone that sits in his office and has a secretary running around and doing everything. He kinda just like, you know, stays in his.
Needs to be hands-on type of guy.
Needs to be hands-on, needs to be able to communicate effectively with persons of, you know, varying degrees. You know, you're dealing with elderly individuals, you're dealing with young couples that are just basically out of high school or college or whatever, and then you're dealing with everybody in between.
Tom?
One thing, and I don't know how you're gonna find this out, but, the interview process or what have you, but I think this job requires an enormous amount of patience. And I don't know how you're gonna draw it out, but the guy, he or she has gotta be extraordinarily patient with everything that comes across his or her desk, and people coming with complaints that are less than catastrophic. Yes. But you got to deal with it and make it everybody understand dealing with them as if they are catastrophic. But I don't know, it's going to be hard to, I think, and maybe you get it from the interview, or maybe we have the right questions. We can draw that out. And I think to Simone's point, I don't want to cut anybody off, but I was having somebody with managerial experience under their belt already would be a real plus, I think.
Phil?
I think, agree with Tom wholeheartedly about when someone comes in with what someone might think is a little minor problem that doesn't have significant importance to the person that's bringing it in, it's a big deal. And someone has to deal with it and be, as Tom said, very patient, take care of it.
Or the other way around, too,
And
right?
the other way around, yeah. And the other thing that I didn't mention before was we've got a ball rolling on looking for a piece of land. Someone has to be ready and willing to pick that ball up and keep it going. If we're ever gonna have a town hall, we've gotta have land first.
Some point in the near future, I'd like to talk to you about that.
Anything to add, Jason?
The only thing that comes to mind is like an individual that's just willing to collaborate with the area towns, you know, and has a personality that can get along with the area town managers and get a feel for what those towns are doing right and wrong. You know, maybe the ability to learn off local town managers, especially if the individual's not from this area. I think that would be important to us. I know, I'm sure Barry could offer some great insight to whoever takes this place. Seems like he's got his hands on everything over there.
For me, I think everything has pretty much already been said. You know, obviously, we don't want anybody to stick in the mud, got to have a good personality and education. You know, I would imagine that any type of education, anybody that would put in for this would have some decent amount of education anyways. But I would tend to think that, you know, we certainly want somebody with a business degree and some of that type of experience. And agree, I would like to have somebody that has town manager experience. Certainly don't want to be bringing in a greenhorn. Not that, you know, that might work. There may be a diamond in the rough out there that might work, but we don't have a crystal ball, so all I have. Elma?
Yeah, I think that we really need someone with what I call a small town mentality. Someone who is either from a small town or has lived in a small town, who can understand that if there are 4,200 residents in this town, that all 4,200 of those residents probably at some time or other are going to be at their door with a problem, big or small, and that person needs to be able to have had some experience or know how to handle that. I mean, a people person covers so much, and they've really got to be, to cover all of that, and they've also got to be able to communicate very well.
Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay, so question 3 is, do you have any other comments that you feel would be helpful in the search process? Fire away. Anybody's got anything?
I think we all have a pretty good grounded idea of what we're looking for. Now, all we have to do is find that brown person that we can fit in that niche.
The process run its course, right?
I think too, that what won't be helpful is to have somebody, I mean, obviously somebody takes this job, has a wealth of experience, or should have a wealth of experience in, as you say, the business world. Sometimes that can jade people a little bit, so when you get to the point where I'm not willing to learn from others, as Jason's pointing out, and you get my way or highway attitude, I think we really want to avoid that. That doesn't work well in this town
Yeah.
at all.
I think I'd like to see someone that sets goals and see the steps, you know, that has the way to get to those goals, that, you know, that has, I don't know if there's anything that can, it seems like Arundel's been just kind of like spinning wheels a long time, and I'd like to see somebody who can kind of like show some leadership and kind of, you know, set goals and you know, and arrive, even if it's small steps, you know, at least accomplish things to a certain extent, you know.
So, you know, with all these questions, all these comments that have been thrown out, you know, I asked the board to think of those comments and work questions, you know, because we're going to be coming up with questions that we're going to ask the applicant. So try in your minds to come up with questions that cover all of these things, you know. I mean, like Simon said, the goals, that's a good one. So, you know, the question could be, you know, what are some of your past jobs, what are some of the goals that you've done? How have you achieved those goals? You know, and how has it been, if it's been positive or negative, or, you know, some of those. So, you know, let's keep in our minds some questions. At some point in time, we'll be talking with Don and going over some questions. And he may already have a bunch of those questions already identified, but.
One of the things that Don would agree with, if Simone gave him that outline that we just created of subject matter, they're sophisticated enough to take the topics and craft questions specifically to those topics. You know,
That's what they do.
can help you a lot in that capacity.
Yeah, and, you know, in our minds, if we come up with questions, he may have already identified those, but I think we should still, if we might want to add a little bit different twist to it or something of that nature, but that's going to be really key when it comes time to the interview process.
Yeah.
I think we should look for somebody who can either take his own goals or goals that are set by the Board of Selectmen, and then get out there and sell those goals to the residents in the town. I think we've had occasions when our town manager tries to be all things to all people, and I think perhaps we're getting to a point where once the Board of Selectmen decides this is our goal concerning a new town hall, or this is our goal concerning economic development. We need somebody who is gonna be able to get out there and sell that proposition to the residents. Otherwise, I think we just keep spinning our wheels, and, you know, you got half the town wants to go one way, half the town wants to go another way. I think somebody who could really show some leadership in that respect could make a big difference.
Okay, any final comments, thoughts? Hearing none?
Something just for my own personal, is a town charter, is that like a common municipal guideline? I mean, do all towns basically adopt a charter and follow
Not all of them do. Fair number have.
It's a crafted town Bible. You know, some are more, and correct me, you know, more than I do about this, but some are more canned and, you know, more rote as far as right off from suggested, you know, material, and some are actually crafted from scratch. You know.
Because if you don't use the charter, you have to go by the statutes. The statutes can be pretty broad.
Right.
You know, and I don't know if it's much as far as the town manager form of government and the statutes.
No, it just tells you what the structure is, but, you know, the charter takes the next step to say what the town manager's obligations, duties are, et cetera. How all the other departments fit
Yep.
in municipal
I mean,
law.
with that said, I think that would be something to add. Maybe, I don't know, maybe question two, you know, just an individual that is aware of charter and follow charter, and that we are a charter-run town, you know. I just didn't know if that was a common ground across the board, everybody kind of does a charter.
It was the first thing I asked Todd for, honestly.
Yeah.
And took it on, you know, I mean, I didn't read it all yet, trust me, but, you know, it's a guiding principle.
Right,
It's, you know, it's the handbook.
Okay. With that said, we'll close the public hearing. We will call the regular Selectmen's meeting to order at 7:06, 7:07 PM. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Oh, sorry, how's that?
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, I was multitasking.
Okay. Before we go any further, I want to welcome Sean is here for the budget board, to have our discussions on the budget board. Let's go with the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add?
Can I add a C under new business? 6C.
Okay.
Brief discussion on, I gotta be careful because I don't know if it needs to go to executive session or not, but just some findings that we've located in town through the fire department. I know I can't necessarily call out the individual addresses in public meetings, so if we could put it at the end, and if we had to go into executive session to discuss more, maybe we can. Is that an option? Or should we just designate an executive session and
So
discuss
we can
it?
bring it up on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, we've got an executive session, that should be on the agenda,
On the
so
agenda?
Yeah.
the public would know that we're gonna do that.
If you want to do something like that, let me know, and then we'll put an executive session for the next.
I'll
meeting.
still keep a 6C, just to,
You can do general findings
Yeah.
on the fire department findings.
I might get an objection for that.
Okay, and then I'd like to, under old business B, I'd like to add discussion on a permit for the Hill Road and Route 111 intersection. We have a little discussion on that. Public forum, any comment from the public? Geez,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion, seconded, all those in favor? Multitasking.
Well, that's my line, you can't. Go get
Okay, public forum. So anybody from the public that would like to comment on non-agenda items?
Public has no comment.
Yeah.
I would like to thank the road crew. I think they've gone, I can't imagine how much sleep they've gotten, but,
Yeah, we're
Our
gonna need
roads
to,
are
one of these
big.
meetings, need to get with Roger and see how we're doing budget-wise here.
I talked to him too.
It hasn't been a lot of weekends, which is good, but,
Yeah, but there's been a lot of hours.
yeah.
Yeah.
right.
I'm all over Kennebunk, Arundel, Lyman, Dayton, Biddeford during the storm, and I gotta tell you, our roads are the best around.
Yeah, that's all.
Roger's doing an awesome job. His budget might be dead, but
Yeah.
the roads are perfect.
Yeah.
He's a little worried about salt, but I've had a couple conversations, and
Okay.
Phil, you're right, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Approval of minutes of the January 26, 2015 Selectmen's meeting. Let's see anything here.
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Tom, second by Velma to approve as submitted. All those in favor? Motion carries. Committees and board reports. So the planning board meeting at 2/12/15 in Mildred Day School at 7 p.m. We had a meeting last week. Not able to attend, so.
I stopped by.
Yeah. Jamie told me you were there, introduced yourself, and, yeah. I usually try to make all the planning board meetings, but the last couple of months it's been so busy, I haven't had a chance.
Well, everybody's struggling with all their responsibilities at home, time sure with you all right now,
Okay. Town hall will be closed on 2/16 for President's Day holiday. You got any information on the Bartlett Bridge? Obviously, they're gonna have that March 5th now, right?
Yeah, that meeting got changed.
And that's this year we got in the mail.
Yeah. That's right. And the Economic Development Committee meeting Tuesday, 2/10/2015 at Weir's Conference Room, Portland Road at 7 p.m.
Are you on that committee?
Yes.
How are those meetings working out, having them there?
It's a very nice facility down
Yeah.
there. It's good of them to let us use the room. It's really worked out pretty well. No complaints about it.
I'm planning to go tomorrow night.
Has there been any other members besides the Economic Development Committee that have shown up to those?
No.
Surprise.
They typically don't show up here either.
Yeah.
Well, I figured it was a much nicer place,
Because we have that on a trial basis, correct?
Yeah.
And if it's going well, maybe we leave it alone.
Do they serve coffee and cookies?
We have a member of the committee by the name of Jen Burrows who
Yeah.
loves drinks.
Oh.
And 9 times out of 10, she
Brings in
supplies
stuff.
Well,
coffee
then-
and cookies.
That's why I'm going.
Maybe I should attend a few meetings,
I'll get you one, Bill.
especially if she's bringing whoopie pies. Oh.
Okay.
Then the last attachment on our packet, is that in reference to the MDOT Bartlett Bridge update? Or is that something you're gonna discuss
No,
later?
that's something we're gonna discuss. All right, new business. So, first item is discussion on how to proceed with the budget process. Jack called me, we had a discussion at the last meeting about where we want to go with the budget. We asked Sean to kind of stop in here and kind of let him know our thoughts on going forward. start off, I mean, obviously it's our budget, and in the past couple of years, we've talked about getting a little bit more involved up front. It really hasn't happened.
I tend to be a little bit blunt and maybe too much, too quick, too fast, but Todd and I did not have the quality time that I thought we might last week. For all kinds of reasons, whether you name it, okay? I was hoping to get a little bit more involved with the status of the current budget, and really haven't had that opportunity to do that. Consequently, I'm going to have to lean heavily on the two groups, and particularly the budget committee, who was about, and you as selectmen, to bring me up to speed. And I'm thinking out loud that that's almost a deterrent, almost a step backwards, and could, in essence, slow down the process as I get tutored, you know, into the details of where we are. One of the thoughts that I had is, if everybody's going to have to help me, I don't mean to focus on me, but look, you know, then one of the activities may be having the opportunity to do that jointly with the budget committee and the selectmen, so that we're not duplicating that tutorial exercise, you know, over, you know, twice. Because I can see, I mean, I've already had a little chit chat, I think Sean, the budget committee, can sit me down and spend some quality time with me, and, you know, saying, okay, this is where we are to this date, this is where we got holes, and, you know, we haven't met with the fire department, you know, blah, blah, blah. But, then we're gonna duplicate it. So, I'm not sure what you folks want to do, because it's really up to you to determine, but I think you've got a little bit of a different circumstance here, because you got something started that sort of, been, at this point, has a temporary setback. I don't know if I've made any sense at all.
I agree with that. And I've, to be
Obviously, I
honest,
didn't practice that.
I've never understood why we haven't had more joint meetings, budget selectmen-wise, in the past. It never made sense to me why the budget board would get presented a budget, make all their recommendations and changes, and then it comes to selectmen for our recommendations and changes. It seems like it's a two-step process, and we could avoid one step.
One of the things that I thought of from my history is that nobody wants to usurp the check and balance system. At least that's, I mean, I would think that's important, okay? I mean, and input, you know, I call check and balance opportunity for input too. I mean, that's a synonym, you know, as far as we address this. And if we were to, I try to role play this in my mind, if we were to proceed as a sort of a joint team right now, and if you need an excuse, I'm a good one to use. You might want to say, you know, to the budget committee, hey, this doesn't mean that you are losing your opportunity to, as an individual body, make a recommendation. You know, they still, I mean, that's what the committee is for, right? At least if I go back in my historical knowledge of a budget committee. So even though, and I'll role play this, even though we're working together, and for example, let's just take an exercise. I think typically you meet with the fire chief, correct?
Yep.
Okay, that hasn't been done yet, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's just take that one example. Then let's bring the fire chief in and have him talk to both groups at the same time. All right, and if the selectmen, let's just be silly for a minute, saying we support buying, you know, a new hook and ladder, and the budget committee doesn't, that still can be two separate recommendations. You know, I don't think you have to, it's not a question of duking it out at the time so that you get, everybody loses their autonomy, but at least the knowledge presented would be a single activity. And then if the budget committee at the end wants to, you know, make some last minute recommendations, let's not avoid that, you know, let's not lose that in the process. I mean, I don't want an erosion to happen over me or over the circumstances, but what a great opportunity to streamline. And I'm done, I said what I needed to say. but-
And that's what Kennybunk does. I mean, they have the budget committee, with the selectmen and all the various department heads, everybody asks whatever questions they want to be asked, and the budget board takes a vote, and the selectmen takes a vote on various line items as they come up. So you just schedule departments, whether it's public works, whether it's fire, whether it's rec. You know, you would have town hall administration, those types of things. And then everybody can be here, and we air it out. And hopefully we come to a consensus and we don't have any split vote.
Do we
Might.
schedule those on the nights when the budget board would normally have had a meeting?
Yeah,
Make it joint?
I suppose.
My feeling is, you know, the selectmen have enough on your plate already to try and squeeze in a round of budget review to fit into your schedule.
We do that anyway, right? We go through the same exercise that you guys do.
Yeah, well, I mean, to add on that in addition to the regular meeting items that you have, if we have it on the budget board nights, when we're usually on Wednesday nights, and that's how a lot of the members, you know, came on, because, oh, it's Wednesdays, okay, I can make that. Because I don't think there's anyone that's elected, maybe one or one, I think one. So everyone else has been kind of appointed.
Paul's our elected, right?
But if we could do it on like a,
What do you mean,
budget board Wednesday night.
Twice a month, once a month?
Yeah, normally we meet like once a month. This time of year, we meet at least 2 times a month. So we can get all the department heads, kind of get them in over the course of a couple of nights. And then we can go through and review proposals.
When's your next meeting?
Right now, we don't have anything scheduled.
Well, that's what you and I, that's what brought us together tonight, right? Yeah,
Right. Because the last one that we were supposed to have, and that was the end of January, we didn't have enough people for a quorum for that meeting. Todd had given us some information in regards to, you know, how the 6 months were looking for the financials, but we didn't get into any, we didn't hand out any budget proposals.
We, Jack, do you have, did Todd put together a budget? Do you have a budget put together? A budget proposal put
Not
together?
completed, but yes, there's a start on it.
That's the one we got last week.
Yeah, the one that he showed us,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um,
Right. And that's why I'm afraid of all the, you know, all of the repeat learning curve that's gonna have to happen, and I'm thinking, gee, let's all get brought up to speed together. I mean, this is a little bit selfish to some degree, but at the same time, I'm thinking,
But it makes sense.
But it's something that, at least since I've been on the board, I've got the same questions as Jason. I've always asked that question, why? You know, the budget board goes and does their thing, and then it comes back, and if we have questions, we bring in the chief in, we bring in, you know, Roger, and why are we
I think
wasting
it
everybody's
helps
time?
save on overtime too, because they're not having those department heads coming in twice to talk to 2 different entities on separate nights.
It should be done all together.
it's a philosophical exercise as well, and I've worked under many different kind of budget committee arrangements, but the most successful ones that I've seen is where the budget committee is a representation of the community as advisors to the selectmen or council, where you can get feedback from people outside of the selectmen environment, okay? So that you can really say, look, there's a group of elected people that work as advisors to the process, and tell us how they feel about a direction that we may be taking. You know, to me, that's a far better exercise than working in isolation, making recommendations that ultimately the selectmen can or cannot adhere to. But if you're sitting there tossed up on a hook and ladder truck, and you got a whole budget committee that got thoughts on it, that's information the selectmen don't want to listen to. I just use that as, again, it's silly, but.
Do we have enough to schedule a meeting a week from this Wednesday to start with our first meeting? a
That
week
would be
from
the
this Wednesday?
18th.
I'm gonna ask you, do you have enough? Or we can start bringing in the department head people?
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't been.
I can't be here that night.
Yeah, I can't be here that, I'm gone that whole week.
Oh, is that,
I'm
wait a
out
minute,
of
that's
town.
holiday,
That's
that's
school
school
vacation.
vacation, yeah, you don't wanna do it school vacation.
On the 25th.
What's the, Tom, Phil, you know, what do you guys think?
You got stuff on the list.
It's fine by me, I mean, certainly short circuits the process. I mean, as you said, the budget is ours. I mean, we sat down with Todd in the past, or John, you know, put together a budget, said we like this, and then we sent it off to the budget board to review and come back with their recommendations. But it doesn't make any sense to have, as I said, the department heads go to their meeting and our meeting and explain the same thing twice. I mean, that's,
Yeah, and I
So
certainly
So you
don't want
got
to
me not,
downplay.
in the middle of not knowing,
That's
you
right.
know, I mean, that's how this all sort of came to pass, is that, you know, I mean, I don't wanna let you down, but I can't, at least initially, can't be the leader of this, you know?
And I certainly don't want to downplay the work that the budget committee has done. I mean, I appreciate the work that they've done, and I don't want to in any way downgrade that at all. I mean, I think this is just a collaboration between the two, and I think we work much better that way.
So did you say, Jeff, you couldn't be here that next Wednesday night?
Unfortunately, I have school board meetings every other Wednesday.
And that's one of your, every other, all right? How about the next Wednesday night? Going into March? Because we would be meeting that
Or
first
the
meeting.
25th.
Yeah, Jack, were you talking about the 18th or the 25th?
25th,
25th.
yeah,
And the 18th is.
school vacation.
Yeah.
And what's the next
one?
Wednesday?
25th, the second?
The fourth?
I can't remember, I think very well, but.
March 4th?
That's the second, it's the fourth Wednesday.
Right. Second and fourth
Yeah, it's your.
Wednesday
So that's your.
is when I have problems.
So that would be the 4th and the 18th available. March
March
4th and
4th.
March 18th.
Works for me.
What do you think? Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
And
we'll
that-
schedule the
That
first
would
joint
give
meeting.
time to notify all the department heads, that the ones that are coming in, they have to have their budget ready for that night to
Yep.
to present
Yeah.
for discussion.
And for me to look at it a little with them ahead of time, not that I'm an authoritarian figure, but I would at least like not to be surprised at a meeting that someone's asking for a new swimming pool, you know?
Has Todd already done that? I mean, is that
yeah,
what he gave us
Right.
last week, Todd?
it's
has
already gone through some initial
Right, but I
numbers.
don't think he's had
Yeah.
the department.
Oh, he had, didn't he?
No.
No, because they've come to me honestly
Yeah.
and said, hey, somebody forget us?
Yeah, yeah.
Were you planning on having a meeting in February?
Was hoping to, just because we don't start until March 4th. We need to have everything finalized by when, middle of April, 15th of April?
Usually beginning of May is
Beginning of
into the
May?
town report book, you know.
Okay.
So I guess my suggestion would be just to, have your February meeting and figure out which department heads you want here for the March 4th. We'll have a joint meeting March 4th with,
Coordinate that with Jack
Yeah.
and put together the agenda, we'll know who's gonna be here and
Yeah,
what budgets we're gonna have, and
I'm just thinking, probably some doesn't even need to be coordinated with the budget group, the budget board. I can just kind of, we just put it as an agenda item.
we're gonna do a prelim meeting with you guys. I mean, it's,
So 4 and 18 right now would be the target? Yeah, right?
Get the 4th and 18th.
You start at 7, Joe?
Yeah, so,
And we don't have to take the time now, you and I can talk, but probably we ought to line up the traditional people that you usually meet with, right?
yeah,
You can help me with that exercise and
yeah.
is that all right with the rest of the,
Yeah, but we gotta get the information out as soon as we can too, I mean, in terms of what the proposals might be from, I mean, I wanna see it beforehand, I mean, rather than the night of, right? I mean, we've already got something from Todd, but if he hasn't met with Public Works and even met with other people, those numbers apparently are not, perhaps don't jive with what they're looking for.
All right, help me Tom with that a little bit, let's just go back to fire department, we've used that one.
Right,
I sit down with the chief shows me his budget, and at some point we say, okay, we're ready to go to the meeting on the 4th.
Right.
Do you folks want that out ahead of time?
yeah.
Okay. And I assume,
But get
Might
it
as
to the
well send it to
budget
the
board,
budget committee,
absolutely,
right.
send it to them too.
right,
It just, that means we're prepared when we come to the
Yeah.
meeting, that's all.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
reasonable, I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
And there's nothing to say too, that once you have all your joint meetings, if the budget board feels they wanna hold a separate meeting with them to make their recommendations
Yeah.
individually, they can do that.
I mean, at least just to go over the budget with the department heads, we can do the joint meeting on those Wednesdays, once we got all the department heads interrogated. Then we can go back to our separate entities, and budget board can go over
if you need
what
to.
they feel.
Yeah.
But I mean, at least for, with the department heads, though we can work jointly to go over that.
And you may not find a need to do that if you have that collaborativeness as you go through it.
Yeah,
I mean, I
And
think
there have been times in the past where the budget board has recommended one thing and the selectmen have done something
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
And maybe with us getting together, that won't happen. It still could, but there's more of a chance of that.
Right, but we don't want to take that piece away. We want
Exactly.
to make sure that
Absolutely.
the option still exists.
Absolutely.
Right.
But then it might also provide more opportunity for your board members to get more information by doing it jointly than it does separately. Because you'll have the department heads there and you'll have,
oh yeah.
Anybody else got anything they want to add? Sounds
now,
good?
I wanna make sure that we have that copy of what Todd put together too before, to compare with what comes from the department heads, to see what he felt worked with what they think they're gonna need to work.
I'm gonna say that again.
Well, Todd had put together a preliminary budget, and apparently the department heads hadn't seen that. He
Correct.
had put that together probably from working, or maybe he had talked with them, or from working with what we had done last year. And I'd like to see what he put together, along with what they're requesting.
Then I'll
That's gotta be in there.
figure out what's in print and make sure you get it,
Okay.
okay? I think that's what you just said.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, excellent.
thank you.
Next item is review and sign payable, accounts payable warrant.
So move.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Item C, general fire department identified findings. Tread carefully.
Situations, not names.
We have uncovered a couple of issues in town of late in the last 2 weeks. Responded to calls, one being medical, one being fire. One being an elderly couple. Where we've gotten there, there's no running water in the house. There's no power in the house, which means there's no sewer in the house. And evidence within the bathroom it's been like that for a substantially long time. Last night was a different scenario. Last night was a fire. Responded. No running water, no sewer. Electrical had been kind of manipulated by the homeowner, and that's what caused the fire. Town of Arundel has never adopted NFPA life safety building codes.
That's correct.
So we are not recognized by the state
Yeah, I thought we did.
to have life safety 101. It was discussed with John Fraser, and apparently there was a packet put together, but at the time, implementation of the program was going to cost too much money. From what I understand, is it never got voted on, never got established.
Yeah, I thought we voted on that at the town meeting or
I
something.
think employers are under the impression that you didn't. So maybe we could do some research on that.
And we changed from the Boca code to
Right.
and now we have main state codes that we have, that we had to adopt because.
Right.
Not being, if it is the case that we are not life safety 101 compliant, or that we didn't adopt it, our hands are tied in situations like this.
What do you mean your hands are tied?
We can do nothing about it because unless it poses an imminent threat to a neighbor, like being a third party, or like if it's a multi-family dwelling, like a 4 or 5, 6 family dwelling, and it presents a threat to more than half of the people living in the multi-unit, then code enforcement can go in and deem it
That's right.
like inhabitable to a group of people. But if it's an individual residence, the state of Maine doesn't want anything to do with it from a local code standpoint, because essentially what Nagel's telling me is they don't care how they're living. It's their personal preference that they don't want running water. They don't care that their sewer doesn't work. My issue is it presents a life safety hazard to us as responders. And last night it really upset me because there was a 9-year-old girl living in the house where the fire was. And there hadn't been any sewer in there for a long time. The water's been frozen for a significant amount of time. And to see the way the guy kind of took over his electrical system he did things that obviously shouldn't have been done, and the result was it caused a fire. I think we ought to look at this life safety, if we are not part of it again. But I think we ought to look at it
If we
again.
adopt life safety, what does that mean you can do?
That gives us the authority,
You meaning the fire department?
Well,
Not
code
fire department,
enforcement.
code enforcement. That gives code enforcement the right then.
More leverage.
It does, and it works in conjunction with the fire department. Like, we obviously are the one that will find the scenario, or the situation, or whatever, the hazard. But that gives us a leg to go to either resolve the issue, or, and I don't want to see him removed from the issue, but I don't see how we couldn't, because, after seeing it last night, those people should not be living in that place at all. And I can only imagine this time of year, how many other places in town are like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been immersed in this quickly. Sometimes you expect things, sometimes you don't. I didn't expect this one. And Jason's dead on, okay, with what he just indicated. I think the first thing that's important for us is to research what we do have and don't have. do our homework and make sure that we could do that. I mean, I have not met with the fire chief on this yet, but I've met with department heads. So I've got obviously another step. Referrals have been made. We've instigated referrals to outside agencies.
For general assistance
So-
and.
That's not too satisfying, but it is a responsibility. You know, I mean, that's not gonna make Jason sleep any better or anybody else in the room, but at least we've taken this, an aggressive, approach to this. The problem with the life safety code, going back to a little bit of my previous knowledge, is that's a statutory code that you can open up a book to and look at it, but you want to be very, very cautious about accepting it as a canned document. Because in that canned document are going to be, in my impression, will be many, many components that you don't want to accept, okay? That will end up literally driving you crazy. Because, if you just say, we adopt this, as a standard in our town, be very, very careful. So what I'm suggesting is a cushion that you piecemeal something together in a fashion that is appropriate, not only for the size of the town, but in the politics of the town and all those components. With that said, that document, when at some point it's got to go to town meeting. So all through the scripting of what it is that you put together, you're going to have to balance the impact of what you're putting together. I'm not saying that's a reason not to do it. Don't get me wrong. No, don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But it's a activity that needs to be managed carefully as you develop it. And I'm not trying to steer you away. I understand the hard way. Without it, it's very difficult to deal with
That's why I was very reasonable.
what Jason has just described, and we have no backing. I don't mean to be
I sat
rude
with,
about it.
I sat with Jim this morning for almost an hour, and nothing can be done from a code enforcement. Nothing can be done at all, nothing.
Right.
No, because, basically, people in Maine that have a hunting camp have no running water, maybe an outdoor plumbing, no septic or whatever, so.
I don't wanna portray it as if I want the Board of Selectmen to take over control of how people live in this town. I don't want that at all. What I want is a leg that we can stand on as a town.
To maintain a standard.
Yeah, to redeem some of these situations.
We just did that with the trailers.
Yeah.
It's the exact issue. People were living in trailers,
Right.
Without running water, without
Camping trails.
septic. We passed an ordinance and the town voted to approve it. So I think, when you get into health and safety issues like that resonates with people.
Unfortunately, one of the seniors, Wendy has been in touch with, what do you call it, elder care and elder, services, and they have gone and they were not allowed in, and so they can't do anything, and until, they're finally, I think, using the service, but until it got to be this extreme, they didn't want anybody.
That was my point, somehow
Yeah.
we're trying to offer them some assistance here,
Wendy, this has been ongoing for years, that,
Oh.
elder services has been notified from your doctor, through your, through Wendy has contacted, and unfortunately, until it got this extreme, it's just.
One of the most frustrating results ounce of knowledge of these situations is recognizing not only do you not have authority, you're putting the town at risk if you try to intervene. And there isn't anybody at this table that wouldn't, in my opinion, I may be wrong, but wouldn't see what Jason saw and not want to be aggressively active in trying to deal with it. You'd have to be a lot stronger person than I think you are to walk away from wanting to resolve it. When you look at the components of your town, fire chief, code enforcement, you know, whatever, town manager, you name it, and look for resolution, it's almost like you have to say to these people, make sure you have some kind of backing legally to intervene or to take any kind of, you know, aggressive direction, or you're gonna put the town at risk. So your effort backfires in your attempt to resolve the issue because you end up on the,
You end up the
you
bad
know,
guy.
on the opposite end of
You know, I mean, the approach should be that, you know, what kind of help can be offered to these, right? It's just not, hey, you know.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, offering help is
But all
one
too
thing,
often
they
they
have
don't
to
want
accept
Well,
it.
I understand
They
that,
have to
but
be willing to accept it.
I think that, you know, we have to be aggressive in trying to do that and offer some help to these. I mean, if they don't wanna take it, they don't wanna take it, but, you know, I don't know, from a town perspective, I don't wanna take a position with a bad guy, you know, you ain't got sewer, we're gonna force you to have sewer. You know, I mean, we gotta try to help some of these people, just simply can't freaking afford it, plain and simple, you know, I mean, it's.
Not a bad idea sometime to have it this, let's find out what we have. I mean, I think, you know, we may be beating this to death and not need to, but let's assume you don't. Let's assume you don't. It's not a bad idea to have a discussion with the right folks here that can educate all of us together about, you know, do you want to take a look at establishing something? And how we're gonna go about doing it. At least, Jason or Susie or Mary, you're gonna feel that you just ignored it, you're gonna feel that you looked into, is there an action plan that you can consider? And it starts with learning about the process of establishing one of these codes. It's intense. It's really intense, and you get some people that are gonna be, although 99% of it is common sense, practical enforcement, let's not use that word, but there's the pieces of it that people are gonna say, oh no, you know, I'm gonna give you just, I know this is in there, because I've learned it. You cannot own a piece of property and have your lawn any longer than 4 inches. It's in the code.
Say that again?
If you own a piece of property, you can't let your lawn grow any longer than 4 inches.
It's in our code?
No, in that particular
Oh, in that
document.
code.
I'm pretty sure I'm right, but even if I'm not right, there's that kind of, on page 9, at the very bottom of column 10, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's written in there, so if you accept that, all of a sudden, you've got that, you know, to deal with, and that's why I say it has to be,
Thoroughly gone over and determined which sections
You
we
bet.
might need
you bet.
in this town.
'Cause-
Uh,
Yeah,
Jason, a question, you've been on the fire department quite a few years. Is this the first time you've run into this, or have you run into this issue with the same people multiple times?
This particular, well, these 2 incidents that I'm referring to, it's
Yeah.
been ongoing. The elder one has been at least a year, I bet, if not 2.
So every year or so you have a problem, it's the same
We've been dealing with that case
for
Yeah.
a long time.
a long time,
Okay.
and it's been on and off, and like I said, Wendy has worked hard in every which direction, trying to get the doctor to do something, get this one to do something, and
The other end of the life safety is, and I'm hoping that it would help us, is right now, what I'm referring to we don't understand the complexity of what's wrong until it's too late. And I'd like to think that adopting life safety would give us a head start. It would integrate code enforcement and fire, and maybe pick up on these things a little prior to it being too late. I don't know enough about life safety if that is an option with that program.
But
If-
are there certain aspects though that you have to have a reason to do an inspection on something? It's like Jim has told us before, if you take out a permit for an electrical, he can go there and do an inspection, but he can't just walk in and say,
That's
I've heard
current.
that, you know, right?
That's current local code where,
Right.
like if I pull a permit to build a screen porch on my house,
And your deck is on.
and Jim shows up to do an inspection, well, he can't recognize the fact that behind my barn is an illegal tire dump and fine me for that, because I pulled a permit for the screen porch. Jim doesn't have any authority he has to find the quickest, easiest way to get to my screen porch, inspect my permit, and get out. Where if we adopt life safety, it's not a
Finds
necessary.
another problem on the property.
If he finds a life safety issue on your property, it raises a red flag, and I'm not saying we need all these codes to find these people and kick them to the curb, but we have no jurisdiction right now at all, and it's frustrating.
I mean, read the paper, look what Portland's going through. Look at the fire chief of Portland.
Oh, yeah.
This has been a discussion, right, about just recently with Portland Fire and their, the reason that they haven't been,
Portland's gonna pave the way for the future of multi-units,
there
and
you go.
the state of Maine is gonna adopt Portland's system.
So,
I can see
All
that
based
coming.
from the fires and,
Yeah.
you know.
so who could we get to take the life safety code and go through it, knowing enough about this small town, who might make some recommendations as to perhaps what sections we could
If,
adopt?
if you hadn't asked that question, I would, off the top of my head, and I know it sounds like, I've actually, ask Simone, if I haven't got 10 hours into this, since I've been here, I'll eat my shirt, okay? It just happens to be the hot button right now. But to answer your question, if you got a fire chief and a code enforcement officer, they have to work in harmony to some degree. And they, in my opinion, I would say, let's draft what you believe is a document that's acceptable for this community. It may not, you may have some input at some point in it, or should have some input, but there's two local folks that know you, know the town, know the code, and could probably make a decision that we better not put the length of the grass in there and screen it for appropriateness, and start with a draft. And it's a work in progress,
So should we task them, should we give them that task? I mean, is that-
Jim, the beauty of Jim is Old Orchard Beach adopted life safety when he was there,
Yeah.
and he worked for a lot of years with the fire chief in Old Orchard through the life safety code. So he's well versed in it.
So he would have a good idea, knowing what small town we are, what might maybe fit Old Orchard but won't fit us.
Yeah.
We actually had that exact discussion today. Every town is a little bit different. You don't have the multi-residential, tenant environment that they do, so there's components of that. But you gotta start with something, keeping in mind that it's a pretty serious document that will affect a lot of people, that will potentially criticize the fact that the town is telling them what
What to
they
do now.
can do with their
Yeah.
property, and I don't mean to be
In
blunt
in
about
this
it.
town, that's,
Yeah.
You might as well know it's coming, because that's what,
but so we've looked, obviously we've looked at this before, right? So we need to do some research and try to find out why it wasn't passed, or if we can find some of that
Some
stuff.
of the last codes
Yeah,
where I'm thinking, but maybe we didn't.
and then we'll discuss it again in a minute.
And if it's okay with you, I'll continue the discussion with the chief and Mike, you know, because they've been very good about educating me and my experiences and what we'll be with them and maybe put together
Something.
an idea of how to proceed. I don't think we should jump in, but we should talk about a plan that everybody can support and live with.
Fair enough?
Now, if you feel that the situation is that bad for a child's welfare, you can word that to the
Child welfare.
child
It's been done in the past for this individual?
Yes.
And
I would do it again, and
nothing's been done.
I would do it again, just to have it on record.
Yeah.
That you reported it
Yeah.
again.
At least it's there, it's on record, it's something.
Well, the frustration is it doesn't,
The state
Had it today, that-
You've done something.
you still need to take that avenue. You know,
I think
and we did.
I happened to drive by that last night's incident in my work doing. We saw the trucks over there, and the town has had problems in that area, that neighborhood before. And I don't believe you're gonna get any, very little, if any, cooperation out of that neighborhood, without some real pressure being put on. There've been problems over there before, and
Right.
that's a whole,
And my theory behind it is I wonder if they know the loophole in our local government where they don't have to abide by, you know, what, they're not breaking any rules right now, they're not, nobody can enforce anything because we don't have anything to enforce.
I don't think they really know the rules over there. I think they just fly by off the handle, off the cuff, you know. They do what they feel like doing. I don't think there's any rules in place. I don't think that particular group of folks over there are up to speed with all the rules.
Good discussion, though.
Where's this, we're gonna find this like this need coaches.
If you get online and type in NFPA,
NFPA?
Life Safety 101, that is like the box. Within that Life Safety 101 are a ton of little boxes.
Okay.
It might be that the town could adopt the 101 and choose the boxes that they pull in. I mean, it might be something as easy as that, I don't know. You know, I definitely think it's worth looking into that.
I think we should utilize some people that finally.
We need to do something to help the young people that have no control of what goes on in these places. You know, you say a 9-year-old girl, she has no control
No,
of
she
what
doesn't.
goes on. And those are the folks I think we really need to try to protect.
In today's society, with all the, with all the avenues of help out there, I think something can be done, but geez, you can see somebody, especially a young kid like that, it's sad. Okay, good. All right, moving on to old business. 2013 tax lien foreclosure update.
You have a list, I believe that you have the, in the past, what we've done before is usually, the 45-day notices have gone out and the period expired on January 30th. So I've sent this along with a little bit more information to the town attorney. What they normally do is they actually do, not only do they do a mortgage search, they do a lien search for any type of liens that are out there on these properties. And like she said, sometimes there's a difference in somebody who's a lien holder might not want us to foreclose on it. So rather than take a chance that we've foreclosed and missed a lien holder, we should have them do a title search, you know, before this. And if there are any additional lien holders, then we'll restart the 30 to 45-day notice period and start it over again for those people and stuff. But, so I've already sent that along. I talked to Jack about it, and we sent that along to the town attorney, and she said it'll be a couple weeks, and I'll get the information to us. So we'll go on from there. So,
Basically, it's the most standard procedure, right?
that's what we've been doing the last few years, is, you know, rather than title search everybody, that we have the 30 to 45-day notices on, we do it on those if we foreclose on them.
So we've already foreclosed on these properties. Send out the notice of pending foreclosure at the time of property.
Right. So unless there's
Unless
a
there's a
lien
mortgage
holder
missed, right.
that we missed, you know.
So
And that happens
if there are, then
sometimes
we own these properties, right?
theoretically. Couple of them are
Some of them are
mobile
mobile.
homes.
Welcome to real estate.
Yeah, there's a couple that are mobile homes.
Right. Unless the bank is intervened, right? So, no.
Pardon?
Unless,
The-
what we have to do is check to make sure that the
Right.
bank hasn't addressed this or the
Right, and
financial.
that we haven't missed
Right.
someone. And other than that, it would be coming forward to you to see about having to pay all the taxes to date to proclaim it back to them.
Mhm.
Well,
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Where's 107 number?
Pardon?
Where's 107 number? Where's 107 number?
107.
107. Oh, that's down that way, it's across from almost where we're looking at for the town hall, but it's incarcerated at this time.
That name sounds familiar.
How big's the lot?
Pardon?
How big's the lot?
That one,
I know what you're thinking of.
Not big enough.
no, it's
big
not
enough.
very big. I think that one is, I think that one is the mobile home, the smaller mobile home, I think. I'll have to look and see.
23 acres up there.
Stone Road, right near the golf course. And I feel bad because it's an elderly gentleman, and he's always been paying a little bit at a time, and he just, I don't know if he's, you know, not well or what.
Okay.
We foreclosed before on the account number 861, and they paid it all up to date. We quick claimed it back to them, and they still haven't paid any taxes back again on that 31 acres.
I thought they sold that.
If they did, then we don't know about it.
No, oh, maybe not.
I don't know. And
Did
the
we do
last one.
something on the last one, the 8 one,
We
right?
foreclosed on that
Yeah.
one, we did a payment plan, and he,
Yeah.
you know, again,
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on that? Last item under old business is discussion on the permit for the Hill Road Route 111 intersection. So, in looking at this, it was my understanding when we had all the meetings that there was gonna be a set of lights there. Now there isn't. It says intersection improvement without signal. Did they
I
change their
understand
mind?
turn lanes only, right-hand turn lanes only, would that make sense?
They were going to put a signal there.
Wouldn't it be separate?
That's why I'm questioning it, I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna do this at a, you know, they're gonna do this now and then come back next year and put the signal. This is 16, 17, so.
I think they needed, to acquire a small parcel of land to put the signal apparatus in place, and they ran into a stone
She's
wall.
holding out.
They ran into a stone wall for what they needed.
So, just out of curiosity, can we find out if their plans have changed?
Yeah, I asked, but I will do that, I will find some more information. I asked the same question, and,
They had a public
quickly, I
hearing
was
on
told
this.
right-hand turns, coming out of hill, right-hand turns going in was what the current plan is, but that's all I know.
Yeah, they had a public hearing, and here, as a matter of fact, they had it here, and, they showed up on the slides and pictures, and there was a light there, so.
Which means they aren't doing anything across the street. All they're doing is going towards Alfred. That property there would be the doors and Kips. And then coming out of Hill Road to turn right is that property right there. So that looks like that's all they're doing. They're not touching anything across the street.
Well, they've got two line items here, right? So they've got located at the intersection of Alfred Road and Mill Road. New Road, now, that's different.
Yeah.
That's another,
Yeah,
those are
that's-
weird.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
That's another, this one.
I'll ask some questions.
Yeah.
so maybe they just.
It's no more my thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
She just gave me the evil eyes. Right.
Well, when I saw that, I started looking at that, and said, well, we should have a discussion on this, because it was completely different than what public hearing went before, so. Okay, good. Other business, anybody else got anything else? Entertain a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second for adjournment at 8:05 PM. All those in favor? Motion carries. Camera,
Action.
Yeah.
please.
Is that done filming the green one?